Hello and welcome to Gross Commission, Truth in Real Estate Brokerages, where we help you understand the truth about the real estate brokerage industry so you can make smart decisions about your real estate career, earn more money, and keep more of the money you make. This is Kevin Cahill.
And this is Lisa Cahill.
Lisa and I are very excited to continue our conversation with Aaron Shishilla and Austin Hintze of Waypoint Inspections in Tampa Bay. We're discussing home inspections, and this is audio that was recorded for their podcast, which is called Waypoint Real Talk. And we were guests on their podcasts, and this is part 2 of our discussion with Aaron and Austin about home inspections. Well, we're excited today to have Aaron Shishilla and Austin Hintze with Waypoint Inspections on the podcast. Aaron and Austin, welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for being with us. We're so excited to talk with you today about home inspections.
Great. Yeah.
Well, our whole notion of a home inspection is so that a buyer fully understands the asset that they are purchasing. Often during the home inspection process, a home buyer will learn things about the home that the home seller doesn't even realize is the case with their home. And that may change their mind about purchasing the property, which could be a saving grace if all of a sudden they realize, goodness, we didn't want to get ourselves into this mess. Or it might help them realize we were budgeting for a certain amount of updates and repairs, but now because of our home inspection, we realized that those repairs just expanded a little bit. Or it could be the case that they realize, you know what, it is what it is, and we weren't surprised by anything. It's in great shape. We're comfortable moving forward.
What's so important about a home inspection is there are things that could be going on in a home that you just don't see on the surface. And if you didn't have a home inspection, a home purchaser would have no idea that was going on in their house.
But a lot of buyers wouldn't know this if they didn't have a home inspection.
Yeah, exactly. So going into new construction now, because I know you guys have some experience with new construction, so I'd love to hear about that.
On that one.
Well, and I'll let Lisa tell this. However, if I may, I'll set the frame a little bit.
Go ahead.
So in Washington State, where we also own brokerages and we've dealt with transactions there, there's this, to me, unsettling trend for buyers to completely forego the home inspections when they purchase a property to try to make their offer look more appealing to a home seller, which to me is absolutely catastrophic to their own financial interests. They're so eager and so desperate to find a home that, in my mind, they're making just a ridiculous mistake by saying, I'm going to forego the inspections. What they could do, which would be equally attractive to a home seller, is to say, I'm going to get the inspections done lickety-split, really quick. Give me 6 days, I'll be done with my inspections. Of course, at that point, if they learn of something unsettling, they can always ask for an extension, ask for a little more time to deal with their due diligence process. But they shouldn't just completely forego their inspections. And even with new construction, you got to be a little bit concerned about that. Lisa, tell the story.
Well, there was a home in Washington that was new construction, and it was actually, we bought the house.
It was our actual home.
Yeah, it was our house. So it was new construction, and fortunately, the house had a 3-year warranty on it. Now, when we bought the house with the 3-year warranty. Now, after the ones built after the one we bought only had a 1-year warranty. So we had the house and we decided to sell it. And it was only 6 months old when we sold it. So the people that bought it, of course, they had a home inspection. And we thought, well, no problem. And if something comes up, we have a warranty on it. Thank goodness we had that warranty and it was still in effect, because they found during the home inspection that the insulation underneath the house in Washington. So that's sort of something different than what's here.
Yeah,
but
crawl space under the house had insulation.
And it was not properly installed. So there was a gap between the floor and the insulation underneath the house. So that caused mold to grow.
Which we didn't know about
We
at all.
didn't know. There was no way we would have known. So fortunately, the home was still under warranty. So they had to remediate that mold. They had to remove all the insulation under the house. They had to treat it for the mold, and they had to replace the insulation. And do you even know how much that cost?
Yeah, that was a total of about $2,900.
Okay.
And the builder,
And we would have had to pay that had we not had the warranty on the house.
the builder covered it because it was covered under warranty. We had only been there 6 months, so this had been brewing during our time of ownership.
Mhm.
There was new construction in our neighborhood, so the buyers who purchased our home could have bought new construction as well, and maybe wouldn't have found mold under their property at that time. But 6 months later, that mold was showing up. Well, and what the thing about it was, we knew that first off, the building was covered by the builder warranty.
Yes.
And there were some check mark or some checklist items that the builder was still going to take care of. I can't remember what they call it, like a button list or.
Yeah.
There was still
Punch list.
So the point being that even with new construction, you would do well to have a home inspection.
Absolutely.
There's no guarantee that a home is properly built. And, it's smart for people to get a home inspection regardless of the age or the perceived condition of the home.
And we were lucky that they went in and fixed it properly pretty
We had
fast
to do
because
that before closing.
we were under contract and they got in there and fixed it. But you just don't know what you're going to be dealing with when you've got a warranty, if they're going to stand good on it or anything like that. So it's better just to know what you're dealing with at the beginning.
And those buyers were smart, and they were very fortunate that they found the problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah, with new construction, that's a big one we focus on, especially when it comes to trying to educate people that are having new homes built. It's exactly like you said. Like, you can't go in there thinking that just because it's a brand new home, there's not going to be anything wrong with it. And I think it's important to say too, is it's when we're talking about the issues we find on new construction, it's not like we're saying every brand new house out there has a ton of issues. It's just, especially here in Florida, and it's been going on for years, but the way that these communities are blowing up around us, the builders are having to hire on crews as quickly as they can to get these homes built as quickly as they can. So there's naturally going to be some quality issues. And I usually get asked a question, well, what builders do you see issues with? And the answer is, well, really, we can see an issue with any builder, right? Because it really comes down to the specific supervisor that's overseeing that construction and how many homes are they responsible for. Somebody who's overseeing 20 to 30 homes being built is going to have much less time to focus on them than somebody that only has a handful. And like you said, too, we've noticed across the board any type of issue you could imagine in a new construction. We've seen trusses installed upside down. We've seen plumbing run through the attic that's being supported by cracked 2x4s. I mean, we've seen it all. And those are things that if the buyer doesn't have an inspector on their side and the building supervisor doesn't happen to catch it, it's going to get covered up by that drywall, and you would never know it's an issue until it becomes an issue 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, long after you're outside of that 1-year warranty, and now you're the one that's on the hook for getting any of those things repaired. So I think it's a great point you make, and I think it's also important for buyers to understand if they want a new construction inspection, have that conversation with the builder as early on in the process as possible, because we've noticed more and more builders that are trying to limit the buyers to only getting a final inspection, saying you can't get the pre-drywall or you can't get a pre-slab pour. And some of those inspections are crucial to make sure that the home's being built properly. So a lot of times I see buyers too that they sometimes opt to not getting a real estate agent to represent themselves in new construction. They go directly through the sales rep. And it's like, you got to have a realtor on your side, right? You have to have a real estate agent on your side, even with new construction.
Absolutely. That's good to know that you focus in on that you kind of know what to look for in the new construction.
And it's really a lesson for home buyers as well. They just are out driving around, and we've learned that buyers will look everywhere and anywhere for a home that might match their needs. And if they see the flags fluttering on a Tuesday afternoon, they might drive into a new development and walk into a model home and meet the sales rep there for the builder, and boom, their agent is cut out immediately. They crossed over that threshold and now they don't have representation. And then they call their own agent and apologize. Oh, I'm so sorry, you won't be able to help us with this one, but believe me, we're going to give your name out to other people. Well, they don't realize that they just actually hurt themselves, not the agent. The agent, yes, it's unfortunate if an agent loses a buyer and doesn't get a fee, but those buyers don't recognize the incredible value that an advocate brings to their team when they have somebody looking out for their own interests. And that includes the agent, the inspection team, all sorts of people that they should have, and they sort of don't realize that they just left all that stuff behind when they walk into a model home unrepresented.
That is a very great point. And I've been thinking for a while now, I'm seeing more and more posts about how Zillow, Redfin, all these online brokerages are going to somehow take over. And I'd love to know, especially with your thoughts on there, what are your thoughts for Zillow and these online brokerages real quick?
Well, I've got great thoughts on the whole iBuyer scenario. And that is that home sellers need to be really wise about what they're walking into when a company is interested in buying their home. They're not doing that out of some incredible generosity. They're doing it because they have an economic incentive to buy your home below market value. And when they buy your home below market value, their economic model is that I'm going to sell it at fair market value and I'll pocket the difference. And that really hurts home sellers. Now, the other side of that, which is equally disconcerting, is this notion that home sellers avoid all sorts of inconvenience and hassle and stress. Well, moving is stressful no matter what. And, just imagine boxing up every little tchotchke you have in the home, packing up all your plates so that they don't break during the move, trying to figure out what just happened, that my dresser now has a chip in it. It's stressful. Having your home on the market for a few days, especially in this market, it's going to sell pretty quickly. That's not a terrible inconvenience. And if you're leaving money on the table, that could be ridiculous.
I mean, it's tens of thousands of dollars. We've actually tested it.
We're students of the game.
And what was it, over $100,000?
So Lisa and I had a home that we were about to put on the market. Lisa and I have bought and sold our own primary residence 8 times in the last 9 years. We want to be sympathetic to our clients so that we understand what they're going through. We go through it ourselves on purpose every few months. So we had a home that we were going to sell in St. Petersburg, and I had received a postcard in the mail from one of these internet buyers, instant buyers. We buy homes that don't look so great, whatever it might be. And so I thought, well, I'm going to check out this website and see what they offer. I went online, uploaded my photos. They auto-populate my property information, but then I correct a whole bunch of stuff because it's not a 2-bedroom, 1-bath home. Now it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. We redid the kitchen, redid the electrical panel, replaced the roof. They gave me back a quote, which was, I think it was about $321,000. And they said, if you have any objection to that, you can tell us why. And so I answered back here the things that we've really done that make this home incredible. They upped their offer to $326,000. But then I looked at the fees. And the fees they're supposed to be avoiding realtor fees, but the fees were like 9.5%. So then I would have netted about somewhere in the neighborhood of about $290 something. And I thought, well, that's crazy. It's way below. I knew the 326 was way below, but I just wanted to see the whole thing through because I'm a student of the game. So we put the home on the market the following week for $417,500 and sold it for $407,500. And we netted $392, just about $100,000 more than this iBuyer would have paid us. And that's a lot of money. I mean, that's 25% of the total value of that home. And I don't understand why home sellers don't avail themselves to a wonderful real estate brokerage. They want full service. They want massive marketing. Our business model is that we do all that for lower fees. So there are options out there for companies who will provide them a great service without the 6% plus fees, and then expose it to the whole market and get the full fair market value yourself.
So it sounds like the moral of the story is we need to listen to our real estate agents.
Always. and to be a little bit more discerning about what these companies are telling you. Oh, it'll be stress-free, it'll be hassle-free. We've heard horror stories from people who then hire us to get their home sold because they were offered a certain amount. They were 2 or 3 days away from closing, and the iBuyer then sent through somebody to do a final walkthrough. Well, the final walkthrough proved to be a full-blown inspection of the property. And then they come back and say, hey, we're not going to be able to close tomorrow. So sorry, we need to negotiate the price downward because of what we learned during our final walkthrough, which was actually a full-blown inspection. And these people were wise enough to say, that's crazy. You guys are just completely trying to pillage my situation. Yeah. So they put the home on the market, and we sold it for about $60,000 more than their initial offer before they even had this home inspection, which wanted to knock off another 20 plus. People need to be a little bit more wise about their total situation.
Buyer beware.
Yeah, and seller beware.
And seller beware. I mean, they're just in it to make money, and it's not the most honest way to make money, in my opinion.
It's a terrible, terrible strategy, and hopefully it'll disappear. Now, what always baffles me about these iBuyers is that when the market tanks, they stop buying homes. Now, hold on a second. If you're trying to help people who are feeling like I don't have a solution and I need to get my home sold, why not help them when the market is tanking? First off, you'll buy homes at lower prices.
That would have been the time to do it. And then from their point of view.
Secondly, it would be like, wow, you're really helping people who are in a pinch. No, when the market softens, and it happened at the beginning of the pandemic, in March and April, all these companies stopped buying homes. Well, hold on. That's when people really need your help.
And that's when they should have been buying homes, because now everything's gone back up.
Imagine if somebody bought a home last March and then tried to sell it this March. They would have made an enormous profit, but they would have actually helped somebody who was in a pinch.
Yeah.
Well, they're not wanting to help people in a pinch. They're only wanting to make certain of their profitability.
And I think you made a really good point about how they promote themselves as being the convenient option, right? Let's reduce your headaches. Let's reduce your stress. We're just going to buy your home directly from you, so you don't have to have a bunch of people coming in and out. And it really seems like it's a made up convenience. It's not actually, I mean, yes, there's stress in it, regardless of which direction you go. So it's not like it's as big of a problem as they're advertising, but to those people that hear it, they're thinking it's that big of a problem, and that's why they want to go that direction. Oh, I can just do this online. I don't have to actually meet with somebody like a real estate agent face to face. Oh, that's so much more convenient. But like you said, if they truly understood the full process, they would realize that that little bit of convenience they're getting is sacrificing a lot versus if they actually worked with a real estate agent.
Stay tuned for more. You're listening to Gross Commission with Kevin and Lisa Cahill. We invite you to subscribe to this podcast and visit our website, www.reallean.com, for more information and resources.
So I have a question for you out of curiosity. So let's look at this from the other perspective. Let's look at it from a buyer who's purchasing a home that's owned by the company who bought the home from the seller. So Zillow, for example, right? Zillow buys the house from the seller, and now Zillow's listing it to sell to a potential buyer. What is it like? Do you have any insight as far as what it's like representing the buyer who's trying to buy that home from the company? Is it any more difficult or any different than if it was just listed by the seller that was working with a real estate agent?
So we've only had a couple of experiences where we've brought buyers to properties that were offered by OfferPad or Zillow or these other iBuyers. And for us, our experience is that it's typically a very traditional type of home sale, which is interesting. Here's a company that's saying you should avoid the stress and hassle and inconvenience of precisely how we're going to sell your home in a couple months. the contradiction and the hypocrisy of it should really send a glaring signal to these home sellers. Beware of dealing with these iBuyer types, because they're going to go ahead and do what I don't want to do so that they can pocket all the money. Why don't I just do it myself and pocket all the money? Now, here's an important thing, and we talk about this all the time with our home sellers. Our business model is that when we work with home sellers, we provide full service and we only charge 4%. If we're the only agent involved in the sale, we lower our fee to 3%. That difference in commission from the typical 6% plus is a lot of money. If you're dealing with, say, a $400,000 home, that could be an $8,000 or $12,000 additional hold on that equity. However, the real math comes in when most home sellers actually have a mortgage on their property. And you factor that fee as a percentage of their equity position. Lisa did the math, and as a CPA, she was like, Kev, it's more like 18 to 27% of a typical home seller's equity position, because most people still have a mortgage on their property. So it's not that 6%, while being a lot of money, is acceptable, which we think it's too much. But when you factor it against their equity position, a real estate agent is saying, hey, let me walk in the door and take about 18 to 25% of the equity you've built over the last 6 or 7 years. Well, the same thing's true with iBuyers. You're letting them pocket an inordinate amount of your equity position by having the junk fees that they put in on the back end for this perceived convenience, which is really no greater convenience.
No, I think that they're thinking that it's going to be more of a convenience than it really is. They're still going to have to turn the power off and clean the house out. They're going to still have to do certain things. And we did a whole podcast on this just in the last week or so, because we wanted to educate people so that they could not get taken advantage of.
We want people to make smart decisions. Obviously, we're talking with you today because we believe so fully that having a home inspection is mission critical to the smart process that they should use when buying a home. And actually, I'd love to talk with you about, having a home inspection if you are a seller. I think that's a very smart strategy. When you're about to put your home on the market, you should actually consider having the expense of a home inspection so that you can pre-address some of those future negotiation issues. What's been your experience with having those seller inspections?
Oh, absolutely. I 100% agree with you. With those pre-listing inspections, and especially in certain markets too, it just gives the power back to the seller, right? Because when you have your property and you've been living in it for so long, you don't really know what's going on. You don't really know that, your Federal Pacific panel doesn't work anymore for insurance. So who's to say that some other random inspector doesn't come along when they, you put your property up for a listing and you have your inspections, you're under contract, and the buyer's inspector comes along and says, yeah, so this is my report. These are all the things that need to be fixed, and all these things are hazards and safety issues. Well, as a seller, you're looking at the report and you have no idea which items you should start looking at or which items you should just say, well, I don't know about this one. But if you have a pre-listing inspection, you really go into the process with the knowledge of, this is what I needed to fix for, the next buyer coming in. I want them to feel safe in this home. And these other items, these are pretty minor. I've talked with my inspector on it. I've lived in the property for a long time now. These items, I'm okay with just saying, making the buyer aware about these items. And you can use that as a marketability point for your property as well by saying, here's the inspection report. These are the repairs that we've done to the property. So that way you're going into the process of look at how much you can trust me in this process, because I'm looking out for your best interest too, right? I'm laying all the cards out on the table. And I'm sure you guys have the same thing when you're going through it. Is that the case?
Well, I think you raise a great point. It does enhance the seller's position of strength. And when we work with home sellers, which is most of our business is seller focused, we do want to keep the seller in a position of strength. And when they have their information about their property not up to date, then they don't realize that they're in a weaker position. But having a home inspection ahead of time will keep them in a position of strength. And then you raise another good point, which is so much of a home sale process, for a buyer to purchase a home, a seller to sell the home, it is a trust conversation. And do I trust that this buyer is actually going to be able to get the financing? Do I trust that this buyer is actually going to close on time? And what's happening is the seller is saying, I'm going to do what I can so that you have a higher perceived level of trust in me that I'm selling you a good home. I think it raises a lot of credibility for the seller when they have that. What would it cost for a typical buyer? A few $100s, maybe $400 or so, and they're able to help alleviate concerns for a buyer. I think it could pay huge dividends.
I agree. And I'd like to see more people, having that attitude. And we've had lots of our seller clients have that attitude where I want to feel good about the house that I'm selling to someone. And I think that's just a wonderful attitude for people to have. And plus, if something comes up during the inspection, now the seller has a disclosure issue.
True.
And that's not good.
Yeah, if they have to suddenly go back and change their seller disclosure forms to say, I have a problematic electrical panel, it's going to cost them sooner or later. They may as well just deal with the buyer they're working with and get that issue resolved with that buyer, because the next buyer is going to have the same concern. The next buyer's insurance company is going to have the same concerns, and it won't get better. May as well solve it right now.
And then when a home comes on the market, goes under contract, goes back on the market, that gives a little bit of a stain on the whole process to me. I mean, you're going to get the most money and have the best result if you get the property out there and get it sold right away.
Buyers are obviously looking to protect their financial interests in their home sale process. They want to find the right home in the right neighborhood in acceptable condition, and they're on high alert that they don't want to make any mistakes. I don't want to buy in the wrong neighborhood. I don't want to buy the wrong home. It's not exactly what we need, but we're compromising because we're under a time constraint. And all of a sudden they are on high alert. And a seller would do incredibly well to alleviate a lot of that concern by saying, here's a copy of an inspection report we just had by Waypoint done in the last month. And now you should also have your own inspection. However, we're not hiding anything. It can bring enormous peace of mind to wary, skeptical buyers.
Yeah, in addition to the, I'm sorry, I was just going to say real quick, in addition to that peace of mind, one thing I've heard other real estate agents talk about too is by the seller getting their own inspection done, they know where their money is best invested, right? If you have a seller who has $10,000 and they say, oh, I'm going to upgrade these cosmetic items in my house, that may be great. But then when we find the Federal Pacific panel, that's going to cost $2,500 to fix. That $10,000 could have been better appropriated if they knew the things that would have caused issues to begin with.
That is an excellent point. If they only have so much money to spare, some people don't have a lot of money to put into things. And we've seen that before, where they don't have the money to fix these things, whereas they may have had it had they not recarpeted or something cosmetic. That's an excellent point.
Yeah, they can defer carpeting, they can defer floor tiles, they can defer granite countertops. They need to invest in the fundamentals of that home right away.
Things that will affect a loan.
And the insurance and the long-term viability of that property as an appreciating asset. And Lisa also raised a very good point, which was that buyers tend to be so skeptical about, whether a home seller is trying to pull one over on them. Whereas the reality of it is home sellers often are feeling like, I want them to love this house. I want them to really appreciate all the minor little things that we've done to the home. We've got the soft closed drawers, and we did all these nice other updates for a future buyer to enjoy as much as we enjoyed. But buyers are concerned about that not being the case. Buyers are thinking, oh, they probably just did cheap work and they're trying to pull one over on me to pocket a big, huge gain. Well, when you went to the expense of having a pre-listing home inspection, I think you're going way over and above helping a buyer feel like well, these are people who actually want me to buy a good house.
Yeah, it shows a high level of integrity to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely agree with you guys.
A lot of times real estate agents have this false understanding of the contract that they actually have their clients under, and that is the typical as-is purchase agreement, merely allows for a home buyer to cancel for any reason in their sole discretion. It does not allow for additional time if buyer and seller are negotiating the electrical panel. It doesn't allow for additional time if we're waiting for the seller to get back to us about what they're willing to do. If midnight of the last day of their home inspection arrives and they haven't canceled in writing, they're buying that home. That home inspection period just ended. So for many home buyers, yes, having more time to absorb the content of that report, understand the gravity of certain situations, it's mission critical that they get it scheduled as quickly as possible. And then you might also suggest additional inspectors for them if the property merits it. I would imagine the scope of your inspections is sort of narrowed to certain levels of expertise. You might recommend people outside of your areas of expertise. Isn't that the case?
Yeah, that's exactly correct. The way that I explain it to people is think of the home inspector as a generalist, right? We're trained to give you an overview of the systems in the home, but we're not trained to be specialists in every single area. So when we notice an issue and we call it out during the home inspection, depending on the severity of it, that's when we'll recommend the specialist come out to do the further evaluation. So for example, we notice an issue with the electrical system. We'll document what it is that we're seeing, but our next comment's going to be recommend you have a licensed electrician come out to do a further evaluation. And you also mentioned earlier on the podcast as far as price, right? A buyer may get that inspection report and in their mind, they're thinking, oh, that's going to be $400, $1,500, $10,000, $20. A lot of times people ask us as the home inspector, well, how much is that going to cost to fix? And for ourselves as a company, we don't give out repair prices just because, like I said, we're not the specialist, we're the generalist. So with that electrical system, we call out the issue. We may say, well, based on what we see, that could be a $500 fix. But then the electrician gets out there and determines there's a larger issue that's going to be a $2,000 fix. There's a huge difference, right, between what that buyer's hearing if we try to give quotes when we're not the specialist. So yeah, you're exactly correct. We're the generalist and we recommend the specialists as needed depending on what we see.
So you need that amount of time to get all that done in your window. And, you know, right now with properties going multiple offers and going really fast, I mean, you got to make that window pretty short.
Attractive to the seller.
Yeah, or you won't get the price. And we're actually, we don't recommend this, but we've seen offers come in with no inspection period.
And I actually have advised sellers, look, if you want to deal with this particular buyer because of all the other terms of their offer, give them a 5-day inspection period anyway, because that's going to alleviate any responsibility on the seller from issues that were not disclosed, unknown, or, you know what, sadly, and we deal with this a lot in Florida, you know, we have people who have inherited a property, they don't know the property, or they're handling something for their parents who have just recently gone into assisted living, they don't know the property, or they're dealing with an estate, they don't know the property. So a buyer saying, oh, I'm just going to buy it as is, it could become a future issue when the neighbor said, oh yeah, I was talking with him about that roof truss, and yeah, I went over there, climbed up in his attic. Believe me, the neighbors are always going to tell the new owners everything that's wrong about that property.
Sure.
And a buyer will have a hard time feeling comfortable, not feeling like, gosh, they failed to disclose something that this neighbor told me he was even struggling with. So we think that having your home inspection as early in the process as possible is mission critical, and then allowing time to do additional reports and then get quotes, get prices. I'm very glad that you actually don't give quotes because, you know, when we're working with the seller, buyer comes back to us with a report. The buyer's inspection report lists repair prices. I'm thinking, that's not, you don't know. I mean, as you say, what looks like it could be $200 could actually be a larger thing. And what you're saying is $4,000 might only be $2,000. I don't know. Why don't you get an actual contractor in there to quote that? So let me ask you another question while we're recording. What service area do you cover in Tampa Bay? I mean, how far abreast do you go?
Yeah, so we cover as far north as Hernando County, and then as far south as, I believe it's Sarasota County, and then as far, east as Polk County, so far east Polk County.
Okay, great. So you cover the whole Tampa Bay region.
Yeah, the full 7 counties within Tampa Bay. Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful.
Awesome.
14 inspectors. And how many years has your company been in business?
So Waypoint Property Inspection has been in business since 2005. And that's when Austin's dad, Bob Hintze, started the company and founded it.
Fantastic. And it's a family-owned company.
Family owned, yeah, by Austin Hintze and Bob Hintze, and also Austin's uncle, Eddie.
Fantastic.
Eddie Lay.
That's great. So you went through all the stuff that was going on with the Chinese drywall and the poor construct. You're talking about sometimes new homes are poorly constructed. I know I come from Manatee County down south, and there was a lot of Chinese drywall back in 06, 07, 08. And also there was homes that had leaking windows that, caused mold to grow inside the house and all kinds of things like that. So it's good that you've been in business all that time, that you know how to look for all those things that can come up.
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of the new inspectors, what they really need is some on-the-job training. And you really need to be in the business for a while and inspect a variety of homes. It's not enough to just do, say, like 30 inspections. What matters is the variety of homes that you're looking at, because a 70s home or a 1920s home is a lot different than a 2018 home, right? There's going to be tons of different issues. You have cloth wiring, knob and tube wiring, and you really have to know how to navigate the process too, because buyers are going to be asking inspectors questions. And while we can say, like, you're gonna have to ask your real estate agent, like, talk with your real estate agent, talk with your insurance agent. But if an inspector doesn't know, they may give out some wrong information that isn't accurate.
Absolutely.
That's a real concern.
Yeah, that's really important in those situations. What I was thinking back in 09 and 10, when I was looking at properties that were foreclosed, I could totally understand why someone walked away from a property, because the windows were leaking and it wasn't properly inspected as far as the county is concerned. We have our county that is supposed to be inspecting in stages. And they, I guess, were just too busy with so much construction going on that they really dropped the ball on a lot of that newer construction at that time.
In 04, 05, 06.
Oh, yeah. And then it came back to haunt these people. So now they owe a ton of money on a house that's falling apart, really.
It's so important that people have a home inspection. When I heard about this, and it's much more commonly the case in Washington, where we have a brokerage, compared to our Florida operations, where these buyers were making all these offers without inspections. And I thought, first off, that's not smart for the buyer to do that. But secondly, it's not smart at all for a real estate agent to advise a buyer to do it.
We would never do that. We just want a property and multiple offers for our buyers. And they were up against offers that were with no inspection. And we said, they said, well, we can do that. And we said, no, you need to have an inspection. We'll make the window pretty narrow, but we want to make sure you get it inspected. We're not going to let you do that. And actually, the real estate agent, the seller's agent, she was with us. She's like, no, I don't even want to deal with that when people don't have an inspection. So we ended up winning the property, thankfully, for those people. They were very happy about that. But we were not going to let them do that to themselves.
And I was thankful that other agent was wise to this concern.
That's just no good come out of that.
Yeah, a buyer who doesn't want to have a home inspection may not necessarily be coming across as the best possible buyer to deal with, because sellers agents are saying, I don't need a future headache 3 or 9 or 12 months down the road.
Yes.
Let's get these people who want to buy the home, get top dollar for the home, but let's have a serious buyer who's going to do things the right way.
Absolutely.
Now, thank you both for being with us, and thank you for letting us be on your podcast. This has been a pleasure to meet you. And thankfully, now we have another set of inspectors that we can recommend.
I know, that can turn around real fast. That's great.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. And I know one thing to mention on our territory as well is we are also looking at some expansion right now. So we're potentially going to be expanding further south, and we're also potentially going to be expanding further east. So as we continue to grow, and as you guys continue to grow, and we're covering more of the state, heck, we may even decide to expand out to Washington. I wouldn't mind taking a trip out there every now and then. Get out of Florida summer.
Lovely right now. Oh gosh, we had the best time in summer. Yeah.
Well, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much, Aaron and Austin. It's been a pleasure having you on our podcast. Let me ask you, if consumers or listeners to our podcast want to reach you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
The best way is just online. So waypointinspection.com. Thank you so much for having us. We appreciate it as well.
Oh, it's been great. Thank you both.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Gross Commission, Truth in Real Estate Brokerages with Kevin Cahill,
and Lisa Cahill,
where we help you understand the truth about the real estate brokerage industry so you can make smart decisions about your real estate career, earn more money, and keep more of the money you make. Visit us at reallean.com to learn more about our company and to access our resources. Franchise opportunities are available across the country.
please be sure to subscribe to our podcast and share with your friends. Goodbye for now.